She stands before you, her beauty and radiance ablaze, that consumes your senses. Her laughter is a siren's call, reeling you into her orbit with effortless grace. Her eyes, sharp and knowing, promise a devotion and a love that men ache to claim. But beneath that luminous veneer lies no mystery, only a well-worn script, performed with beguiling precision. Love stripped of its divine spark becomes a hollow trade, a truth too many learn when the illusion shatters. What you mistake for a sacred bond is merely a path. She has walked 1,000 times, each step polished to perfection. Every touch, every whispered word, every calculated pause is not a revelation, but a ritual, etched deep in the grooves of her memory. When intimacy forsakes transcendence, it degrades into a marketplace where souls are bartered like trinkets. What burns in your heart as passion may be to her just another transaction in an unending ledger of fleeting conquests. A woman seasoned by countless liaisons wields a charisma so refined it feels like divinity, masking a tragic descent, where the holy flame of love is ground into the dust of the profane. Where reverence for the divine has withered, love collapses into the fleeting thrill of the masses. What men mistake for boldness in her stride is often the ghost of a soul frayed by endless repetition. Watch how swiftly she crosses sacred boundaries, trampling thresholds that demand awe with reckless ease. True intimacy is a divine bond, a fusion of spirit and flesh that elevates the human heart. When offered too freely, too carelessly, it splinters into fragments, no longer a union, but a scattering of ash. The holy fire of connection is traded for a flickering spark, passed from hand to hand, leaving only shadows where radiance once burned. Listen to her words when she speaks of men. Do they weave a tapestry of broken endings, of fleeting sparks that fade into voids? Womanhood, unmoored from purpose, chases novelty and attention like a moth to a flame, burning out in pursuit of hollow pleasures. If her tales echo the same arc across countless faces and places, you are not witnessing fate. You are tracing the scars of decadence. Even her gaze betrays her truth. The eyes of a woman untouched by such cycles hold a quiet enigma, a depth that pierces the soul. But the eyes of one worn by endless liaisons flicker restlessly, unrooted, unable to linger in the gaze of a single heart. This is the unraveling of the feminine essence, a drift into chaos where desire scatters like dust on the wind. Men blinded name this chaos freedom, crowning her liberated, unyielding, fierce for her lack of pause. But freedom without a sacred anchor is merely bondage to impulse, a masquerade of strength that cloaks a surrender to the void. The modern push for freedom has been a plummet into chaos, where raw instinct cloaks itself as choice. Her effortless touch, celebrated by the naive, betrays no trace of the innocent's tremble. She glides across sacred boundaries with a careless grace, rendering the holy mundane. This is not strength. It is the death of reverence and the desecration of love. It's a fall from altar and the transcendent to the auction block and the transactional. Men, often blinded by beauty, believe they've found a singular flame, mistaking her polished act for a rare spark. They cannot fathom that what burns so brightly for them has been kindled countless times before. When love is severed from the divine, it becomes a performance, all dazzle and no depth, spinning endlessly to nowhere. Listen to how she speaks of past lovers, each story a fleeting footnote, as weightless as a discarded map. Sacred vows reduced to casual tales reveal a heart dulled by repetition. Without a transcendent anchor, life sprawls horizontally, shallow and unmoored, never piercing the heavens. A woman seasoned by too many encounters masters the art of emotional masquerade. Her touch, her gaze, her laughter, each move is a dance rehearsed to perfection. Not a gift, but a performance. This not spontaneity, but spectacle. A stage where men barter their souls for a fleeting role. She speaks of her independence, claiming she belongs to no one, her freedom her crown. But what the world calls liberation is enslavement to craving, a hunger for men's validation that chains her spirit. Her essence fades into a passive current, swayed by every tide, but rooted in none. Watch how she molds herself to you, mirroring your words, echoing your wit, anticipating your every mood. This feels like destiny, but it is only the reflex of one who has reshaped herself too many times. This dissolution of being, the loss of form from too many reinventions. A woman poured into countless molds retains no shape of her own. True femininity is a sacred vessel, not a shapeless stream masquerading as connection. Notice her response to conflict. She wields discord, not to forge stronger bonds, but to brandish the threat of departure, a tactic honed by countless exits. Endless beginnings erode the courage to endure, and only endurance unveils love's divine truth. Social media has magnified her stage, transforming this spectacle into a ceaseless performance. Every post, every crafted image, every glance at the lens is a plea for applause, a rehearsal for adoration. When sacred intimacy is traded for fleeting cheers, silence becomes a void she cannot bear. Her hunger for validation is insatiable, for once love is stripped of its holy fire, only the clamor of the crowd keeps her from fading into nothingness. Observe her circle, or rather its absence. True women of depth forge iron bonds with sisters who hold their souls to account. Yet she orbits only men, each a fleeting spark, to feed her craving for adoration, tribute, or fleeting worth. This is a betrayal of the feminine spirit, a scattering of essence that refuses to take root. In rare silences, her mask phrase, eyes darting, fingers chasing phantom messages, her soul too restless to rest in one presence. When love is torn from its divine moorings, it becomes a ravenous void no legion of lovers can fill. Her haste betrays her further. She races through intimacy's sacred rites, each step a practiced beat in a well-worn dance. What you call spontaneity is merely her efficiency, a shortcut to a destination she's reached too many times, and the death of love's transcendence, where hallowed paths are paved over with haste, stripping away all mystery. Hear her speak of love. Her words drip with scorn, laced with a jaded edge, untouched by the reverence of first encounters. She's tasted too many beginnings, each duller than the last, her heart numbed by excess. When love loses its celestial spark, it devolves into a gnawing hunger, forever seeking, but never fulfilled. Notice her addiction to the new. Boredom stalks her, routine chokes her, stability feels like a cage, yet true love thrives in the quiet mundane, where bonds are forged in steadfast warmth, not fleeting flames. A woman who flees stillness has been sculpted by repetition, to chase only infernos, blind to the glow of enduring light. Even her laughter rings hollow, too quick, too precise, a rehearsed echo of lines heard from countless others. Genuine joy is a singular burst, but hers is a performance, heavy with the weight of artifice. Such intimacy is a hollow pageant, where gestures eclipse the soul's truth. In conflict, her true nature emerges. She does not mend, but manipulates, wielding withdrawal like a blade to sever connection. This final fracture, when love becomes a currency to be hoarded or withheld, Its sacred fire is snuffed out, leaving only the cold ash of control. Intimacy, in her hands, becomes a calculated wager, dangled or withheld, to tip the scales in her favor. Love is no gift. It is a currency bartered in a ruthless market. Her friendships betray the same truth. Shunning the fierce bonds of women who demand accountability, she gathers men like trophies, each a fleeting source of praise, gifts, or fleeting worth. Her charm is no radiance but a cunning web, spun to harvest endless adoration. Silence terrifies her. Where true connection embraces quiet, she drowns it in a torrent of words, tales, or restless motion. She knows stillness would unveil the void beneath her mask, so she buries it under clamor. Depth cannot take root in a soul that flees the silence. Scrutinize her tales of the past. Polished to a sheen, they cast her as the eternal victim, the blameless, the star-crossed. Yet cracks emerge, timelines waver, details dissolve, excuses breed like shadows. These are not memories, but a script, crafted to bind you while hiding her endless cycle of repetition. Every gesture, every word, whispers the same grim truth. Intimacy reduced to a hollow act. Love debased into a ravenous feast. To the naive, this masquerade mimics life's pulse, but to the discerning, it is merely glitter-cloaking rot. Her approach to desire reveals a deeper wound. Sacred desire bows in awe, a bridge to the eternal. Yet hers is a weapon, wielded, flaunted, retracted without reverence or lasting fire. The desecration of love, where holy flames are snuffed out to feed fleeting hungers. Observe her response to loyalty. She does not cherish it as a rare jewel, but demands it as her due, as if devotion were owed her by right. Gratitude withers in a heart dulled by the worship of countless others, leaving only the cold expectation of more. Her entitlement masquerading as worthiness, when love becomes a throne she claims without grace. Its sacred light fades, leaving only the ashes of a soul that has forgotten how to give and how to receive. When love is endlessly offered, it loses its power to astonish, becoming a fleeting spark in a worn-out ritual. Each new man ignites a rush, a fleeting dream of renewal, but the thrill crumbles under the weight of the ordinary, driving her to flee. Modern love, addicted to fleeting fire, forsakes the strength to hold its sacred shape. Her morality betrays her further. She cloaks past choices in the banner of freedom, claiming progress while dodging truth. Beneath her bold words lies cowardice, a refusal to face the toll of repetition, where sacred bonds erode into chaos. This is not liberation, but entropy, a descent into formless ruin. In her presence, a fleeting euphoria fades to doubt, as you question whether you are her chosen or merely her next. This is no illusion. It is the shadow of intimacy worn thin by routine. When love is severed from its divine root, the soul becomes a faceless echo, lost in a sea of sameness. Her relationship with the material world mirrors this decay. Subtle demands for gifts, hints at lavish needs, tests of your willingness to give. These are not mere whims, but habits carved by a cycle of taking, where love twists into obligation. She mistakes chaos for passion, tempestuous fights, tearful reunions, emotional whirlwinds masquerading as depth. Yet true depth is a steady flame, enduring silence and strife, not a storm fueled by addiction to intensity. Her jealousy of other women reveals a darker fracture, not the fierce guard of a sacred bond, but a desperate grip on her source of validation. She subtly dims rivals, polices your gaze, her hostility a mask for fear, not of losing you, but of losing the adoration she craves. At the heart of these patterns lies a single, searing truth. Her essence has unraveled. True love builds, sustains, transcends, a vessel of divine form. Yet scattered across countless fleeting encounters, her spirit dissolves into ash, a restless dance without root, allure without anchor, desire without destiny. Ask her of the future, and her words spiral aimlessly, a hollow echo circling a void. When love's sacred vision is lost, she is left adrift, a shadow chasing fleeting flames, forever unmoored from the eternal. Her plans unravel into wisps of indecision, promises that drift without ever touching the solid ground of commitment. Modernity's flight from permanence, a chase for fleeting thrills that wither in the face of eternity. Her vaunted independence is a hollow crown, praised by those blind to its truth. She proclaims herself a fortress, yet her world is propped up by the silent tributes of men. Rides, solace, gifts, doors opened by her carefully woven web. What seems like strength is merely reliance, fractured across countless sources. Her view of equality twists into a blade, not forging balance between masculine and feminine, but slashing away accountability for her choices. True equality demands a shared burden, but her freedom is a shield for self-interest, cloaked in the guise of progress. Her emotions dance to a calculated rhythm. Affection pours forth when she seeks gain, then freezes to ice when discord looms. Love, in her hands, is no sacred flame but a lever, wielded to bend others to her will. Her crises, too, bear the mark of artifice, emergencies that erupt with eerie precision, timed to snare your focus when it dares to wander. These tempests demand your time, your strength, your very soul, pulling you back into her orbit. Each calculated storm reveals a deeper desolation. When love is stripped of its holy root, it becomes a vortex, devouring all who draw near, leaving only the wreckage of hearts ensnared by her endless hunger. Her crises vanish as swiftly as they ignite, once her demands are sated, a staged tempest crafted to tighten her grip. She scorns the quiet rhythm of ordinary life, deeming routine a prison, mistaking chaos for the pulse of true depth. Yet only in enduring the mundane does love forge its eternal bond, while she remains shackled to the fleeting rush of new beginnings. She spins reckless choices into tales of bold discovery, multiple lovers cast as mere exploration, past entanglements as trivial, your unease as weakness. This cunning rhetoric turns truth on its head, leaving you to question yourself, while her actions escape scrutiny. Beneath her polished words lies a grave of buried honesty, smothered by empty slogans of progress. Her friendships tell the same tale. Women of depth shun her, seeing the patterns men overlook, so she weaves a net of male admirers, each a spark, to fuel her endless need for affirmation. In this tangled snare, you vie with phantoms for a place in her gaze. Nothing here is chance. These are the scars of repetition, etched deep by a life of hollow cycles. When love is severed from its divine root, it spirals into a relentless churn, a wheel that grinds away all hope of transcendence. To love her is to step blindly into this vortex, mistaking its spin for fate. Her memories are no reflection but a crafted illusion, each story sculpted to captivate, each truth buried until you're too entangled to flee. This is not remembrance, it is a calculated script, to bind your heart. Her standards shift like sand, bending to her whims, never fixed, never true. When love's sacred form dissolves, she becomes a fleeting mirage, luring souls into a wasteland where devotion is swallowed by an abyss of endless craving. Her demands twist and swell, an ever-shifting labyrinth ensuring no man can ever claim her fully. What she calls discernment is a fleeting mirage, dodging the weight of lasting commitment. This is the reign of chaos over essence, a restless churn that scorns sacred form. She compares you in whispers, a glance at her screen, a fleeting remark about another's deeds, a sigh for what you lack, trapping you in a silent war against ghosts. Where loyalty finds no root, devotion withers in barren soil. Her intimacy unfolds with mechanical precision, a scripted dance tied to reward or reprisal. Desire in her hands is no sacred spark, but a tool, offered to bind you, withheld to wound. What should blaze with spontaneity is reduced to a cold calculus. Her sense of self hangs not on inner stillness, but on fleeting reflections, praise, messages, fleeting glances that prop up her fragile core. Without them, her identity frays, unmoored from any enduring truth. She feeds on ceaseless motion, nights of revelry, shifting horizons, anything to sate her ravenous craving for novelty. Yet love's heart beats in steadfast endurance, its roots in quiet constancy. Without these, her passion flares briefly, only to collapse into embers. Her words about men drip with veiled disdain, jabs at their flaws, smirks at their predictability, as if she's tasted every story and found them wanting. This is not insight, but exhaustion, a weary echo of too many encounters. Even her retreats are choreographed. The phone falls silent, her warmth chills, her presence fades in calculated steps. These are not stumbles of doubt, but the practiced strides of one who has fled countless times before. When love's divine anchor is lost, she becomes a hollow gale, sweeping through hearts, leaving only the dust of shattered bonds in her wake. What shocks your soul is, to her, a weary routine, stripped of awe by endless repetition. At the core lies a gaping void where mystery once thrived, born of rarity, unshackled by rehearsal, anchored in sacred form. When all is familiar, when nothing is holy, mystery withers, and with it, the ember of true love dies. Step back, and the grim tapestry unfolds. Every gesture, every tale, every glance is no mere flaw, but a thread in a vast decay. Her past has not just shaped her, it has shattered her essence. When form collapses, the feminine spirit no longer lifts the soul, but scatters it into chaos. Her relationships are no odysseys, but relentless loops. Intensity surges, passion flares, then crumbles. The stage reset for the next unwitting player. Each man enters, certain he is her chosen, yet he merely recites lines scripted long before his arrival. To call this love is to mistake a grinding wheel for fate. Her seduction burns with such fire that you believe yourself her only star. But it is no connection, just a honed performance, polished by countless encores. Without the divine, allure becomes a transaction, and every transaction exacts a toll on your soul. Even her beauty deceives, no longer a window to the eternal, but a veil cloaking emptiness. True love reaches for the heavens, a beacon beyond the self. Without this, beauty dazzles but blinds, leading only to ruin. Responsibility eludes her. Failures are flung outward, blamed on fate or others, never on her own choices. This refusal to reflect fuels the endless cycle, barring any hope of renewal. Men who dream of saving her, of rekindling her sacred flame, pour their devotion into barren earth, where no roots can grow. The modern world cloaks this decay in glittering lies, hailing chaos as liberty, repetition as wisdom, erosion as strength. Yet beneath these slogans festers desolation, A society that profanes love profanes itself. What stirs your heart in her presence is not destiny but decline. Her fiery gaze not mystery, but the shadow of memory. Every move, every word, every sigh is a line from a script played for countless others, its magic dissolving under scrutiny. The choice is yours. Surrender to the fleeting dazzle of her carnival, or seek the rare, sacred flame that still burns in hidden places. Even in this fallen age, transcendence endures, for those with the courage to see past the mirage and the resolve to walk away from a form already lost. But to linger in her orbit is to court a void that consumes all hope, leaving only the ashes of a love that might have been forever extinguished by her endless, hollow dance. For a man awakened to his deepest essence, a guardian of his own fire, a steward of legacy and lineage, the pursuit of a lifelong union is no casual endeavor. It's a forge where two souls temper one another into something eternal, a bond that echoes the primal rhythm of creation itself. In this sacred hunt, he honors the instincts etched into his being, the drive to provide not just material sustenance, but emotional anchorage, to protect not merely from external threats, but from the subtle erosions of the spirit, and to claim territory not as conquest, but as a sanctified realm where devotion blooms unchallenged. But in the haze of modern allure, he must confront a truth that stirs the depths of his vigilance. A woman's history of unbound intimacy can fracture the very foundation of that devotional bond, dimming the psycho-emotional flame that binds hearts in unbreakable accord. This is not a decree against her autonomy, but a mirror held to his own resolve, urging him to reflect on what truly serves the highest harmony for both. A partnership where love transcends fleeting sparks and becomes an enduring blaze. The masculine core pulses with an ancient wisdom, a silent knowing that provision extends beyond the hunt's yield to the cultivation of a shared sanctuary. He builds not for himself alone, but to shelter a union where vulnerability is met with unwavering strength. When a woman's past whispers of scattered affections, it can erode this instinct, planting seeds of doubt that undermine his capacity to pour forth without reservation. Each unguarded surrender in her history may echo as a phantom claim on her essence, subtly diluting the exclusive devotion he craves to offer and receive. Human bonds thrive on perceived uniqueness, a sacred reciprocity where emotional investments yield unbreakable loyalty. Yet, when echoes of prior entanglements linger, they can trigger an instinctive withdrawal, a protective barrier that stifles the free flow of trust. He feels it in his bones, the territorial urge to mark a love as wholly his, not as jealousy born of frailty, but as a primal assertion that this bond is a fortress, impervious to the ghosts of yesterdays. In honoring this, he safeguards not just his heart, but hers, ensuring their alliance is rooted in mutual elevation rather than shadowed compromise. Protection, that fierce sentinel within him, demands he shield the sacred from desecration, recognizing that true guardianship begins with discernment. A history laced with transient connections can imprint patterns of detachment, where intimacy becomes a rehearsed performance rather than a soul-deep revelation. Mastery lies in choosing battles wisely, in aligning with what endures rather than what dazzles momentarily. Thus, the man looks inward, asking if her past alignments foster a bond resilient enough to weather life's tempests. The psycho-emotional tether, that invisible cord of devotion, frays when memories of dispersal cast doubt on her capacity for full presence. Her laughter, once a balm, now tinged with the residue of repetitions, her gaze wandering where it should anchor. This is the quiet ache, not a wound from her choices, but a call to his own fortitude, to protect the potential family lineage from foundations built on shifting sands. Philosophy murmurs that harmony arises from complementary forces, masculine structure meeting feminine receptivity. Yet when her essence has been diffused across many horizons, it can disrupt this balance, leaving him to overcompensate, his protective instincts strained in a dance of perpetual vigilance rather than serene union. Territoriality, raw and unyielding, surges as a guardian of exclusivity, insisting that love's domain be claimed with clarity and defended with honor. It is the instinct that carves out space for progeny, for legacies that ripple through generations, unmarred by divided allegiances. When feminine energies have wandered freely, unbound by covenant, they can introduce a subtle dispersion where the devotional bond, meant to be a singular, psycho-emotional sanctuary, becomes haunted by comparisons unspoken. He senses it instinctively, the erosion of that primal claim, where what should be a devoted hearth feels like a contested territory, pulling at the threads of his commitment. Introspection reveals this not as possessiveness, but as a noble frame, upholding standards that elevate both, ensuring their love mirrors the transcendent ideal, a union where provision flows from abundance, protection from peace, and territory from mutual reverence. Repeated cycles can condition the mind toward novelty over depth, fostering restlessness that challenges his territorial resolve. Yet, in reflecting on this, he strengthens his core, choosing paths that honor the highest good, where her heart aligns with his in undivided fidelity. This discernment begins as a whisper in the soul, a stirring that demands he look beyond surface enchantments to the deeper currents shaping her capacity for transcendent love. Her radiance may captivate, her warmth envelop, but beneath lies a narrative woven from choices that either fortify or fragment the potential bond. For him, attuned to his masculine pulse, her history is a map of the heart's terrain, revealing whether intimacy was guarded as a sacred right or expended in fleeting exchanges. Not to condemn, but to reflect. Does this align with the devotional depth he seeks, where psycho-emotional intimacy unfolds like a ritual of souls, untainted by prior dilutions? The weight of such a history lies not in numbers, but in imprints, emotional echoes that can manifest as guarded walls, where full surrender feels elusive, straining his instinct to provide a haven of absolute trust. He ponders this in solitude, honoring his territorial essence by envisioning a partnership where protection means fostering her wholeness, not mending perpetual fractures from past dispersals. In the forge of self-reflection, he confronts the red flags not as accusations, but as beacons guiding his path to mutual exaltation. A pattern of casual entanglements may signal a comfort with transience, clashing with his drive for enduring territory, where love is a claimed dominion of devotion. He notices if discussions of her journey evoke evasion, a reluctance that hints at unresolved shadows, prompting him to introspect on his own boundaries. Does this foster the protective shield he must maintain for their shared future? Nostalgia for bygone flames, spoken with lingering fondness, can stir his primal vigilance, reminding him that true bonds demand hearts fully present, unanchored to echoes that dilute the psycho-emotional purity. Inconsistent boundaries in the now, flirtations that blur lines, test his territorial resolve, urging him to honor instincts that prioritize sanctity over seduction. Unhealed wounds from prior cycles may surface as cynicism or distance, challenging his provisionary role. Here, Stoic wisdom bids him assess if healing has taken root, ensuring their union builds on solid ground rather than reactive sands. The ache of potential misalignment pierces deeper, a visceral pull that awakens his masculine core to the fragility of transcendent love. Even in strength, he feels the shadow, knowing that versions of her unguarded fire may have illuminated other paths. leaving the devotional bond with him subtly dimmed, as if competing with invisible rivals. This is not frailty or insecurity, but the territorial instinct roaring for exclusivity, a demand that their psycho-emotional merger be pristine, unmarred by dispersions that erode trust's foundation. True union thrives in polarity, masculine containment embracing feminine flow, yet when flow has scattered unchecked, it can overwhelm containment, straining his protective essence. Such histories can breed subconscious comparisons, fracturing the bond's intimacy. He reflects on this, fortifying his frame to seek alignment where provision meets reciprocity, protection encounters openness, and territory embraces loyalty without contest. Yet in this introspection, peace emerges as a forged blade, sharp and unyielding. He turns to the eternal wellspring within, rooting his worth in an unshakable core that no external narrative can unsettle. Prayer or meditation becomes his compass, seeking clarity on whether this path honors the transcendent call, where masculine instincts align with her readiness for covenant depth. Focusing on her present radiance, signs of growth, a heart attuned to devotion, he weighs if it eclipses past imprints, allowing their bond to flourish in mutual elevation. Guarding his own essence, he embraces self-sufficiency, knowing that true provision stems from inner abundance, protection from resolved strength, territoriality from wise selection. If misalignment persists, he chooses courage, not abandonment, but release toward higher harmonies, trusting that transcendent love awaits in realms where instincts and ideals converge. In the end, the man who heeds this call stands as a pillar of masculine integrity, his instincts not weapons, but guides to a love that transcends. He does not resent histories, but discerns them as threads in a greater tapestry, seeking a weave that strengthens both. Her past, viewed through his reflective lens, becomes a catalyst for his growth, urging him to honor the primal fire within, provision as legacy building, protection as soul safeguarding, territoriality as devoted claiming. By maintaining this frame, he serves not just himself, but the sacred potential of their union. A transcendent love that defies decay, ignites generations, and echoes eternity. And in that pursuit, he discovers a power profound, the quiet triumph of a heart aligned, a bond unbreakable, a legacy luminous.